Hello guys, today we'll study class 8 science NCERT book, the new one. Have you been ever curious कि कैसे forces react होती है when you touch objects and more? So let's study chapter 5 exploring forces NCERT based notes. So let's start. This chapter mainly promotes force and friction. So let's begin with the definition of force. Force is a push or pull acting on an object. Force एक push या pull होता है जो एक object में act होता है. The SI unit of force is Newton, which is also denoted as N. Effects of force. A force can start a motion of an object, stop a moving object, change the speed of an object, change the direction of the object, also change the shape of an object. These are some of the pointers that are very important, so don't forget them. Now, moving forward, there are two types of forces, balanced force and unbalanced force. If we talk about balanced force, they are equal forces acting on an object with opposite directions. For example, let's take a table. From one side, my brother is pushing it, and from the another, I am. But we both have the same force and strength, due to which the net force is zero. That's why there is no change in the state of motion. That is known as balanced force because nothing moved. Unbalanced force. Forces are unequal in this case. Now, giving the same example, but this time I made more force, that's why the table shifted towards my brother's side. This is because cause of change is appeared and a state of motion occurred. It can start, stop, speed up, slow down, or change the direction of an object. Meaning, unbalanced force can create a motion in an object. On the other hand, balanced forces has no change in the state of motion. Now, contact forces and non-contact forces. These are also the type of force. Contact force are muscular force and frictional force. Muscular force. It is produced by the muscles of humans or animals. Now, like I gave the example of the table, that is a contact force just because my brother and I are in the contact with the table and we are touching it, pushing it or pulling it, etc. On the other hand, frictional force acts between two surfaces in contact. Now, the table was being pushed by me, opposes the motion of an object. Understood? Now, let me give you an example of frictional force. For example, we all walk on the floor while wearing shoes. Now, if this floor is rough, we can walk on it easily. On the other hand, if the floor is even a little smooth, we might trip or maybe fall. Now, non-contact force. The non-contact forces have three examples: gravitational force, magnetic force, and electrostatic force. So, gravitational force is like gravity only. It's gravity basically. This force is called gravity because Mr. Isaac Newton also told, Earth attracts all objects towards itself. Even humans, animals, normal random objects like a chair, table, etc. Now, magnetic force. Magnets attract certain materials such as iron. A magnet have two poles. First is the north pole and the second is the south pole. Now, you might have even tried this experiment at home, taking two magnets together and see if the poles attract. If the poles are attracting, that means that they are unlike poles. On the other hand, if you switch the poles and they repel from each other, that means they are like poles. So what I'm trying to say is like poles repel each other, on the other hand unlike poles attract each other. Electrostatic force, the last non-contact force we need to understand. It produced due to the electric charges that occur can act without physical contact. If I may have not told you yet, non-contact forces are basically forces that do not need contact or any touch. On the other hand, contact forces only are produced and acts only when there is contact between the object and some other thing, for example human, animal, etc. Now, friction. Definition of friction is: it is the force that opposes the motion of one surface over another. I also gave you one example, but now let's understand advantages of friction. Let me give you example of the same that I gave in frictional force. If you walk on the smoother floor, you might trip. But on the other hand, if you walk on a rough surface, you will not trip, which helps us in walk. Now, when you take a piece of paper and write with a pen or a pencil, you can easily write due to friction. Helps vehicle stop safely because of the friction that is between the tire of the vehicle and the road. Disadvantages of friction: causes wear and tear, produces heat, reduces efficiency of machines like vehicles. Now, how can we reduce friction? These are some of the points you should remember, like using lubricates such as oil or grease, use ball bearings, polish rough surfaces. Now, I just gave you an example of walking on the floor because it's a rough surface, we can easily walk on it. But if it's polished, it makes it smoother and we might trip or fall. Now, gravity. Gravity pulls objects towards the earth. It gives objects weight. It keeps us, also the atmosphere and oceans on earth. Basically, what I am trying to say here is gravity is the all the energy that pulls objects towards earth. Now, uh, Newton was mainly denoted by Isaac Newton. We also write N because Isaac Newton was the one who found gravity and basically discovered force. Now, magnetism. Every magnet has two poles, as I told, North Pole and South Pole. Like poles repel each other. For example, we take two magnets and uh, pull both together with north poles attracting each other. Of course, we all know they'll not attract, they'll repel. On the other hand, if we take one's north pole and another south pole, they will attract and not repel. Now, important definitions. I want you to stop the video, take a pause, and just remember all the points I told you, like force, balanced forces, unbalanced forces, friction, gravity. Read them aloud, list them somewhere, write them on a piece of paper. Just remember these points for later. Let me tell you all the differences that we studied. Beforehand, don't forget to read these definitions. Contact force versus non-contact forces. Contact force requires physical contact, example muscular force, frictional force. You don't need to give examples, but if you can, it would be better because this way you understand as well as the teacher knows that you have clarified this while studying the chapter. Non-contact force does not require physical contact, examples gravitational force, magnetic force, electrostatic force. Now we'll come to balanced force and unbalanced force. Balanced force require equal in magnitude, opposite in direction, no change in motion. On the other hand, unbalanced forces are unequal in magnitude, causes a change in motion. You can also write in balanced force the magnitude becomes 0 Newton. On the other hand, in unbalanced force there is unequalness in magnitude. That is also mentioned here. Now, if you have weak spelling and grammatical errors in the exam, you should remember and rewrite these applications and keywords on a piece of paper or note them somewhere so that you don't forget these words like force, push, pull, motion, balanced force, unbalanced force, muscular force, friction, gravity, magnetic force, electrostatic force, Newton, which can be also denoted as N. Important questions that may appear in your exams. Now, as I told you earlier, these questions are very common. So, I want you to rewatch this video or just answer these if you remember what I told you. First question, define force. Second, what is the SI unit of force? Third, state any 4 effects of force. Fourth, differentiate between balanced and unbalanced force. Fifth, differentiate between contact and non-contact forces. Sixth, define friction. Seventh, state 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages of friction. Give one example of friction. Eighth, name the 3 non-contact forces. Ninth, why do objects fall towards the earth? 10th, state the law of attraction and repulsion between the poles of a magnet. Now, I want you to post all the answers of these questions in my community, which is given in my channel, on my channel. And if you have any doubts and need clarification, you can approach me whenever you want on my community. So, thank you and have a great day ahead.